Thoughts of suicide often haunt many of us. Some give in to the temptation and take their own lives, some silently, others leaving a suicide note. Each one has their reasons for doing so, not always understanding that it is wrong. Help is always available. Someone will listen if you reach out. I write these words not just because, but to share my story of how I encountered such an awful thing and what made me love life again. I had just graduated from college with no clear idea of where to go next, so I decided to find myself a normal job. I am quite sensitive, even overly so. A mere mention of sadness would set me off crying in a corner, and there I was, struggling through adulthood. I found employment, but the workplace was less than ideal. I tried to confide in my parents about this, explaining to them, the still naive and green young adult that I was, that every second working place could lead to similar situations. We argued frequently on this topic, after which I wouldn't speak to them for weeks at a time. For almost a month, I wandered around aimlessly, feeling defeated and constantly reminiscing about my lost youthful freedom. I occasionally thought about suicide, but quickly dismissed those thoughts. That is, until I stumbled upon a website called Dreams of Fallen Angels. Someone had sent me the link in a private message on a popular social media site, not surprising given the nature of the page I maintained during that difficult period of my life. The site itself resembled a forum, where all the lost souls gathered. It was shrouded in darkness, with psychedelic art and endless discussions on death. People conversed about various methods of suicide, from the most mundane to the most intricate. Every user shared their experiences and offered advice for specific scenarios. The name Dreams of Fallen Angels wasn't chosen randomly. In one discussion, they referred to dreams as the world, into which fallen angels or suicidals entered. No heavenly paradise awaited them, filled with beautiful maidens singing sweet songs. Instead, it was a hellish realm ruled by darkness and pain, where people were tormented, eaten alive, and raped. They promised a beautiful reward after a hard life on earth. Naturally, I became curious. At first, I merely read the forums and contributed occasional comments on certain topics. Over time, I became fully immersed, finding solace among like-minded individuals. I even made a few friends, exchanging contact information and communicating regularly. Despite our morbid interests, we sometimes discussed lighter subjects, sharing impressions of movies, games, and music. I felt grateful to have finally found companionship. We even created a group chat on the social media platform where we peacefully interacted. My spirits lifted, and I began to face adult life more positively. Many noticed the change in me, asking if I had found a wife. In response, I lied, telling them that I had simply discovered interesting online acquaintances. My life improved somewhat, though not significantly. I spent less time contemplating my own demise. But then, after a heated argument at work, I was fired. My parents scolded me, leading to a bitter confrontation. Alone in my room, I confided in my newfound friends about my desire to die. They encouraged me, planning a group suicide. Each member of the site was granted a path to Eden. Suicide isn't a sin, but rather a blessing when God plays a cruel trick on you. Everyone who feels trapped has a chance at a beautiful life in a world that accepts and understands you. There were countless motivational phrases on the site, urging people towards death. Today they sound insane, but back then I found the strength to carry it out. In a moment when my parents weren't home, I connected with my friends via video call. They were younger than me, but I didn't care, as long as we ended things together sooner rather than later. We chatted briefly, wishing each other well before beginning our plan. Our method of choice was a deep cut on the wrists. First, my left hand. Then, my right hand. I placed my hands in front of me, watching as the blood streamed down my arms. My eyes water-red, and darkness enveloped me. We hadn't reached Eden, but instead found ourselves in a living nightmare, a world bathed in crimson tones, where suffering reigned and despair hung heavy in the air. We heard screams of agony, smelled the stench of blood, and